Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear that. That's not good. Yeah, I didn't really think of this. I could run it inside the battery box, but I'd have to drill some big holes in here, and then I'd have to undo the banjo bolt and run it through, and then have to re-bleed the brakes every time I put this thing on and off. So I think I'm just gonna either zip tie it or somehow just connect it to the frame right here. Something like that. Okay, it is now time to start working on wiring this thing and trying to get it to work. Now, the bigger controller got here just in time to do this. This thing is so much bigger than this tiny little one. To clarify, this small one is rated for 5,000 watts continuous, and this is rated for 10 to 12,000 watts continuous. And this is, just to clarify again, this is the ND 721-200. The small one is ND 72530. So this is the controller that I was kind of thinking at first, like, do I want to first put the small one on just to see what the small one can do, and then we can put the bigger one on and compare the two? But I'm too impatient. I want to put the bigger one on. So I looked up online and I did find a wiring diagram for this thing. It doesn't really tell me. It doesn't tell me how to wire up the display. It says two wires on this, the light blue and the purple. Where's that? It just says that these two wires go to this, but it doesn't say which wires it goes to, as well as the other wires and what powers this. Obviously this thing needs power, so yeah, I gotta figure out how to hook up the display. So also I did buy I bought this giant on-off switch that's gonna be going in between the battery and controller, so therefore worst case happens, it jorked out or something, I can just shut this thing off and shut power off to the controller, and it should be rated for the kind of power that this controller or the battery can produce, as well as I found a circuit breaker that's also going to be going in between the battery and the controller, because is there a circuit breaker in this thing? Is there a fuse in this thing? I'd hope so, but I'm just going to put one on there anyway, and this one's rated for 300 amps. Is it the right size? I don't know. This battery can only supply, I believe it was like 260 amps continuous, so 300 amps, that's above what it can do. So is it the right size? I'm not really sure. We're just gonna find out, I guess. Now I'm gonna wire this thing outside the frame and everything. I'm just gonna take this giant cable, hook this up to the controller, and wire this up on the table, so therefore it's easier to figure out where all these wires go and everything. And then once I get it working, then I'll put everything in the box and neatly wire everything. these screws don't fit in here, so I gotta drill this out. All right. All right, here goes nothing. Ooh. Okay, so far so good. All right, is it on? Nothing's happening with this LCD screen, but that's probably not hooked up correctly. Okay, nothing. See if that's on. All right, nothing's happening. So that's on. That's off. That's on. Give me a minute. Let me figure out something. I don't know. So for some reason, this battery, the 51 amp hour battery, it's reading voltage. It's reading 65.7 volts. 65.7 volts. The 46 amp hour battery is reading 71. So this one's higher, but this is still reading voltage, so it still should be working, right? When I plug it in, nothing happens. You hook this wire to this, it should power it on. Nothing happens. You take the smaller battery. Take the smaller battery, and you can hear it when you plug it in. You can hear it arc. You can actually feel the wires doing something. And when you plug it in, it sparks, and that's beeping. So I'm not sure why the 51 amp hour battery is not working. It's reading it's not as much voltage, but it's reading something. I don't know. Maybe I just have to charge it, and hopefully once I charge it, then it'll work. But I don't know. Let me just try to get this thing working with this battery. Okay, 2 beeps, 1 long it means it's in its self-learning mode, so I just hold the throttle down. So I think that's it. I think it's... Okay, it's working! Oh, this thing is terrifying. This thing is terrifying already. Jeez. So there is a weird noise. You hear that? Ow. But I figured out what it is. It's basically just this bolt that holds on the brake disc is rubbing up against the bolt that holds the caliper. So I just gotta take this bolt off and just shorten it just a little bit, and it should not make that noise anymore. So luckily it's not. Luckily it's just that. I thought it was something like inside the motor, like a magnet is rubbing up against something. So yeah, that's totally fixable. Alright, so I ground that bolt down so it shouldn't be making that noise anymore. Alright, that fixed it. Okay, watch how terrifying this is. I gotta hold this thing up for it to not hit the ground. That is full throttle. That's I also I gotta balance the tire because it's, you can kind of, I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but it's walking a little bit as well as kind of jumping. Oh, I can't wait to ride this thing. Okay, so I had to go to Lowe's to get some stuff, and while I was gone, I left the 51 amp hour battery charging because maybe this thing just needs a charge. So it's been charging for like an hour and a half, which is not long enough, but let's see if that's, because I don't want to put it in if it's not working, and I don't want to put this one in if it's just, if this one just needs a charge. So let's just see, unhook this, let's just see if it works. Okay, that's a good sound. Okay, so it just needed a charge, thankfully. So yeah, thank God, because I thought this was like a lemon or something. I'm like, why is this not working? It's showing voltage, but I think it just needed to be charged a little bit. So it seems to work now. So now let's start working on putting all this stuff in the dirt bike frame and neatly wire this stuff up. I bought some switches for the high-low, one for reverse. I may just put reverse on here just for comical purposes, as well as e-brake and stuff like that. Alright, it's a little cram-packed in here, but I was able to squeeze the battery in, the controllers in. I was able to zip tie it to the frame using that cross member that actually runs right across it. I know some of you guys were saying in the last video to solve any potential overheating issues that we could have with this controller, something I could do, and that would have worked perfect if I could do it, is take the heatsink off of the controller and then mount the controller directly to the aluminum frame on the inside, and possibly even mount the heatsink on the outside, and that will work as, you know, cooling and all that kind of stuff. But that would have worked perfect, but there's no flat spots on the frame where the controller is mounted. There's a crease in the frame right here and right here on both sides, and that strengthening cross member that we welded in place in the last video goes directly across where the controller is. So unfortunately, I couldn't do that unless I cut that out, and yeah, that unfortunately wouldn't work. So I'm kind of hoping that we don't have any overheating issues with this controller. I'm kind of in denial on like that's maybe a problem, because on the 6,000 watt electric pit bike project, the electric motor, anytime I ride that thing, the electric motor does get really hot, but the controller doesn't. The controller stays, you know, at a normal temperature. So I'm kind of hoping that this has the same thing. So, but if it turns out to be an issue, I'll figure out how to solve it later, or I'll do something about it later. So I'm kind of using this as my control panel. I think I showed this before installing it. This is a giant battery disconnect switch. It can handle like up to 300 amps, so it should be plenty strong enough for the battery we're using. Basically just shuts off power going to the controller whenever it's in the off position, and I'll shut it off whenever I'm not using this thing. So also these two toggle switches, this one, that is low range, that's medium range, and then that is high range, and then this one, that's reverse. We have reverse on this thing. That's forward. I am gonna limit it. I'm gonna go into the controls on this once I get everything working. I'm gonna limit the reverse to be only able to go like 1 or 2 miles an hour in reverse. We don't need to go fast, but it would be nice to have reverse. It's kind of a cool feature. And then also we have a key switch that turns on the controller. So I'm gonna plug this thing in. Hopefully I've wired everything up correctly. We're about to find out. Hopefully it doesn't blow up or anything like that. Alright. That's on. I have the back tire off the ground in case it wants to launch or something, I don't know. Okay. Alright, it's working. It's working. Alright. I'm curious. I hooked up the rear brake to the controller, so hopefully once I hold the rear brake down, I can't twist the throttle and have it accelerate. So hold and brake down. Yeah, it's not letting it spin, which is good. So it's on low range. I'm not sure why it jumps like that. I don't know if that's probably not good. Okay, I'm curious if reverse works. It does. Okay, and it's not full speed. Yeah, that's full speed in reverse, which is good. We don't want to go too crazy fast going backwards. Oh man, this thing's gonna be terrifying. So, alright, it works. Yeah, I almost forgot to put a kickstand on this thing. For me, a dirt bike, I like it when a dirt bike has a kickstand. just so you're not looking for a tree or just something to lean this thing up against. I could have probably could have bought one, but I would have had to modify it anyway to get it to work with this. So I just decided to kind of not make this. I actually took this part off an old project, and I just kind of modified it, made a new one. I had to make it longer just to work with this. All right, so I got the display working. Check it out. So turns on. Everything's on here. Tells you the battery. Tells you the the speed, and it's in miles per hour, which is awesome. This tells you what gear you're in. One is low. That's high. 2 is medium. So let's just keep it on low. And it tells you the speed. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Works perfect. Okay. So I'm playing around with the settings on this thing, trying to figure out what amperage, because this battery is kind of limiting what I can do with this thing. Right now I set it to max current 200 amps and max phase current of 400, and it kind of which before it was a lot higher than that. So this thing's kind of now gutless. Let me put it on high. Oh boy. Okay. So it's a bit gutless, I'll admit. It's a bit gutless at this power rating, so let's crank it up. First, motor's not hot, wires aren't hot, controller's not hot. Let's crank it up a bit. Max line current 600 amps, max phase current 1,200 amps. So it's back on its original settings. Don't touch the throttle, otherwise this thing's gonna take off. It kind of feels the same. Yeah, it's the same. It didn't change. I've been talking with somebody on Instagram about this stuff who knows way more about this stuff than I do. Huge thanks to him for helping me out with this stuff. He highly recommends that because of the battery I have, I limit it to 200 amps continuous and 400 amps peak. But when I tuned it for that, this thing was pretty much gutless, so I brought it back to auto-tune, to its auto-tune features, and it tuned itself. So let's just take it up the road shortly, see if the motor gets hot, see if the battery gets hot, see if the wires get hot. I'm leaving the panel off. I'm not going to ride it for very long, and I just want to see if things heat up for just a little bit before I really tune it down to that much. So yeah, I may need, if I really want to go full power with this thing, I may need a new battery. The battery I bought is not really rated for that much amperage. I think it's at peak, it's like 260 amps, which is not great. This controller can do, I think, 600 peak amps. So yeah, we're about to find out if this will melt the wires. Should we start on low? Let's start on medium. Low is a little bit too low. Let's start on medium. Here goes nothing. This thing is so quiet. Holy crap, this thing's quiet. Oh. That's not a good noise. That's not a good noise. It's like fighting itself. Yeah. Okay, first test, not great. The motor's fighting itself when I hit full throttle. It does like this weird shimmy thing where it feels like the Hall effect sensor doesn't know where it is, and it's like, yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, it's not a smooth acceleration, if that makes sense. So I think it's trying to pull a ton of amps, and it can't, because I have it pulling. Alright, parameters, let's change it to, yeah, 600 amps, let's change it back down to 200, okay, and 400. Okay. And then save. Okay. Let's try that and see if it's a little bit better with the acceleration. Yep. Still doing that thing. I don't know how to describe it, but it's still doing it, even at these lower settings. Is it obvious that I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to electronics? I have no idea. So... Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear that. That's not good. Yeah, I wish I chose a smaller bike. One that I could actually touch the ground. Okay, first test. Not too impressed with this thing, to be honest. I was expecting this to have way more power. The 6,000 watt feels like it has more power than this. So I don't know if this is just not tuned correctly. Maybe I just need a new battery. What's going on with when I hit not even full throttle, when I just hit the throttle just a little bit, it does the thing with the motor. I gotta figure out what that is, so give me a moment. I gotta tune something. I gotta figure this out. So, I'm still playing around with this thing, and I noticed that these axle nuts have loosened up, and because this thing is jerking back and forth, I think there's something going on, and the Hall effect sensor just can't keep up with the motor, and for a split second, it like tries to spin backwards for a second, it like tries to stop the motor, and then it keeps spinning, and in doing that has now wallered out this metal plate, and you can see, look at this. Yeah, look at how much play this has now. Like, ah, that's great. Great, now. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, that's not good. So it's started to chew the aluminum on here. That's great. Also, oh, that's not good. Yeah, that's oh, we gotta fix that. That's not good. So basically, let me clarify what's going on here. What I think is going on here. For some reason, I have no idea why. There's some bad connection in between the hub motor and controller, or maybe there's a bad setting that's wrong on the controller. But for some reason, when it's in high range, it does it in medium range, but not as bad. It does it the worst in high range. If I just when I'm driving this thing, if I just very slowly twist the throttle, it works fine. It just accelerates fine. But if I just twist the throttle just a little bit faster, not like jamming the throttle. It does it really bad if I jam the throttle. But if I just slowly twist the throttle, it does something. It's hard to explain. It's like a juddering where it's like once every rotation, it either like tries to stop the tire, or it's like the polarity is switched and it's trying to spin backwards for a second, then it keeps going. And it does it like every rotation when I'm driving it, so when it happens, it's like a da-da-da-da-da thing of just like, I don't know what it is. It's weird. It's almost like the Hall sensor isn't reading properly, or it's not getting a good connection, or it's trying to pull too much amperage and it's not able to, so it's like trying to spin it faster, but it can't. I don't know what's going on. No idea what's going on. And I've actually just been on the phone with Voltaic on Instagram. Huge thank you to him for helping me out with this stuff. We've been on the phone for almost an hour, over an hour probably. We're trying this, trying that, tuning this, changing this setting, changing that setting. I go take it up the street, still does it. We tried this, it still does it. So what is it? I am not sure. And then all of a sudden I'm noticing that that noise is getting worse and worse, and I'm seeing the axle on this. Whenever I have this off the ground and I twist the throttle a little bit fast, I could see the axle on this. It like, you know, on acceleration it moves forward, but when it does that, the axle just does like da 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 da. It's like moves back and forth real fast. I need to fix these metal plates. These are obviously not thick enough. Hopefully I didn't damage anything on these axles. Hopefully not. So because this side of this axle has more threads, I'm actually going to cut a new plate out of 1/2 inch thick plate steel. That should be strong enough, and because there's a little bit less threads on this side, I'm going to cut it out of 3/8 plate steel. So right now let's make new plates for this out of much thicker plate steel. Then once we fix that, tighten these down, and I need to put cotter pins through them so they don't back out. Once we fix that, then we continue working on trying to figure out what is going on with this thing. And if we can't fix it, if I can't solve it, I do have that smaller controller that I can put on here and see if that fixes it. Who knows? But first, let's make some new plates for this thing. Yeah, that kind of did some damage on the swing arm. Crap. And it kind of also started to round off the axle, but it's not as damaged as it could be, which is good. Yeah, the new plates are done. I filed them to Final Dimension. That way I could get a lot closer tolerance, and these almost have a little bit of play, but nowhere near as bad as the original ones. So hopefully these don't break like the last ones. So yeah, once I get everything installed and put these nuts on here, I'm gonna tighten the crap out of these, and then I'm gonna drill a hole and put a cotter pin through these just to make sure they don't back out again. Alright, so this time I put cotter pins in these nuts, so hopefully they won't loosen again and we won't have that issue anymore. Now, last night I was doing a bunch of research trying to see has anybody else been having a similar issue. Alright, so to save this video from being over an hour long, let me just quickly explain some things that I thought could be the issue at the time. First, I thought there could be a short in the Hall effect sensor wires, so I tested it by slowly spinning up the motor while moving the cable around, trying to recreate the motor glitching issue. See, why does it seem like it's not a really smooth acceleration? After that didn't work, I thought maybe it could be the battery disconnect switch or the circuit breaker that I installed, so I bypassed those with a different connector I had, then took it up the street, and still that didn't fix the problem. I then spent a day and a half changing settings in the controller, trying this, trying that, tuning the amperage down, tuning this, changing this, redoing the auto tune, and it still didn't fix the problem. Alright, I think I fixed the issue that it was having, whatever it was. I don't know. Never mind. Okay, so I have tried almost everything I can think of on trying to fix this thing, and nothing seems to work. It's still doing it. It's still just, I can't even barely touch the throttle without it doing the weird, like, jogging thing, whatever, it's shuddering. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's not cutting out. The best way I could describe it is if I just mediumly, like, twist the throttle, it just feels like once every rotation, for a quarter of that rotation, it feels like it's trying to spin backwards or like tries to stop the motor. It just feels like the phasing of, I think that's what it's called, of, you know, when it fires the coils for each magnet, it feels like it feels like it flips. Feels like it's just trying to spin backwards for a little bit of the full rotation, and it does it, you know, once for every rotation. So you're just driving this thing, and you guys can hear in the video, it just starts going like, it sounds horrible. I know it's horrible. I'm hoping I'm not breaking anything. Testing it as much as I have, trying to fix it. I realized this yesterday. I should have put a GoPro on the rear axle or on the swing arm showing the rear axle. I should have put a GoPro so you guys can see the axle just twisting back and forth when it does that. But I forgot to. Also, I'll admit, the more I'm testing this thing, the more I am, you know, wearing away the flat spots on this axle that's supposed to take all the torque of this motor. I am, you know, wearing it away, so it's, worst case, I can just, you know, weld more material on there and grind it smooth. Worst case, I have to make a new axle, which I hear is not impossible. I should be able to do that, and I can actually make it bigger and stronger and all that kind of stuff. So now, huge thank you to Voltaic on Instagram, who has been helping me, as well as Ryan, who has been helping me. Unfortunately, we've been trying this, trying that. Ryan has been telling me, like, change this parameter and try it, change this parameter, check this, check that, and still just nothing works. He's now looking at the manual for this controller, because I still think that it may be just a setting is off in the controller. For a little bit, I was thinking maybe the wiring was damaged and shorting out. Now I don't think that's, I don't know, that still could be the case. I don't know. I have no idea what it's doing. I've Googled, I'm Googling on YouTube, on Google, like, you know, has anybody else been having this issue? And I just can't seem to find anything that is similar to this. I don't think it's the battery BMS, the battery management system. I don't think it's that, because I have seen people have that issue of when they give it throttle, it just shuts off. And this is not doing that. It's not shutting off. It's has to do with the Hall effect sensor. It has to do with phasing of the the wires and all that kind of stuff. So it's not. I don't think it's a battery BMS. But then again, I'm not sure. So, next video of this project, I will continue working on this thing, trying this, trying that, trying not to damage this thing as I'm testing it, as I'm trying to fix it. And worst case, if I can't figure it out, I could always, just to see what'll happen, I could always put the 5,000 watt controller on here and see if that fixes it. And I can even try the 46 amp hour battery that I have and put that in here and see if that fixes it. Also, I did buy on Amazon. There's a little there's a Hall effect sensor tester on Amazon for like 20 bucks. I bought that. Should get here tomorrow. So I'll test the Hall effect sensor to make sure it's working. I'm pretty sure it's working, but I just want to make sure it's working and all that. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I really want to ride this thing. But it's just electronics. When they work, they're great. When they don't work, they're a nightmare, and they take forever to figure out, and who knows what's going on. So if y'all have an idea on what is going on, why is it doing this, leave a comment. But chances are, because I upload this 2 or 3 weeks after filming this, by the time you guys are probably watching this, chances are I will hopefully fix the problem by now and figured it out and all that kind of stuff. But if I haven't, leave your comment anyway. If you guys know what the issue is, if you guys know how to fix it, please let me know, because I really need help with this stuff. I don't know electronics. I don't know what I'm doing with electronics. So anyway, that's the end of this video. I have no idea how this video is going to turn out, because I haven't really been filming. I may have to do some voiceover to explain like what's going on, because I've been filming every time I take it up the road, and it's just doesn't work. Take it back, change parameter, take it up the road again, doesn't work. Take it back, change this, take it up the. So it's no idea how this video is going to turn out, but I guess I'll just figure out how to edit this thing. So anyway, I gotta end this video here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.